Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines and most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show that I do because I only speak to transportation professionals on this show, as well as my twice-a-week long-form podcast, because I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. It's one of the many, many reasons why I proudly fly that American flag behind me every single day. A, we're the greatest nation on earth, but B, I'm living my American dream, and I want to help each and every one of you live yours as well. Thursday, let's go. It's starting out for a great day. Corey Buchan, happy Thirsty Thursday, everyone. He's over on YouTube. Jamie Morning, SP Freight on YouTube. Eclectic Rose, Justin Berger, good morning team, everyone over on YouTube. I like seeing everybody going over to YouTube there. I've heard so much about having like a drop in quality of stream over on LinkedIn, and I haven't heard that over on YouTube at all. So it's good to see people transitioning over there as always. And yeah, Thursday thought topic is something that, hold on, what? Micah, so this is something, and this was one of the main reasons. So Micah brings up a good point. Micah, good morning. She's also looking for some freight out in Dallas, in the DFW area. She sent me an email this morning. So RGN, if you guys got something for Micah, she says, good morning. I'm so proud of LinkedIn sending live notifications this week. We'll see. Fingers crossed, Micah, that this continues, because that was a very big thing that I've heard from multiple people over on LinkedIn who are like, hey, are you even going live anymore? I stopped getting notified of you going live. But rest assured, you guys, no matter what, I will be live every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central. When I do travel and get out on the road and stuff, I might be at a different time, but I will go live every single weekday. Stephen Tittle, morning all. Let's rock it with the real news today, he says. I love it. Bill McIntyre, good morning, everyone watching over on YouTube as well. Little update on the fuel. Fuel dropped down to $3.82 a gallon out there, you guys. I get that information from the EIA, EIA.gov. Pay attention to some of those fuel lines, you guys, because it is starting to drop. So if you're out there and you're bidding on spot market freight, line haul plus fuel and everything, take that into consideration as you're going out there and putting your pricing for your customers, because that definitely fluctuates and changes things. And especially if you're used to paying a specific price on that, you want to make sure that that is coming through in at the same price, right? Because that's one thing that I would, get caught up on early on in my career. And when fuel prices change and it's a set rate out there. Let me see here. Sunny Sharma, good morning, my orange shirt gang. Let's go. Yeah, I got the orange shirt on, man, but it's still like 30 degrees here in Phoenix, and I gotta keep this sweatshirt rolling. Zena, happy Thursday, everyone. Good morning. Juan Baena, good morning. April Maroney, happy Thursday. Let's get after it. Amen to that. Yeah, guys, a lot of stuff going on. It's the Eric Ransom says it best here. Good morning. Freight is moving. That's a fact. I already got my first driver getting loaded up out in California right now. And weather, you guys, I wanted to bring this up. Sunny, what's freezing in California? 55 degrees. But weather is a big thing that's affecting stuff here. Obviously, if you guys aren't paying attention to the weather, I would start doing that. But that really throws a wrench into some things. And I have some freight that's moving, that's going into those weather patterns. And I always get ahead of those situations, you guys, because, not everybody lives in those climates. And I always make sure your drivers are prepared no matter what. And then also call ahead to those facilities, ask them, is there a plan. If the plant gets shut down, I've dealt with that in the past when it comes down to the weather related stuff out there. So pay attention to that. And especially you guys, I-80 is always a nightmare this time of year. And those snowstorms in Wyoming can come out of nowhere and shut that road down for days on end. So just make sure everybody's prepared, right? Again, we're all behind a computer screen for the most part on the broker side of things. And do your drivers a solid and let them know about that stuff, because no truckload is worth a human life. All right. And that's what you all need to be thinking about in this time of year. There's no reason for anybody to push, especially if they're going in to some inclement weather and everything. We need people safe. We need people to get back home to their families. So keep that in mind out there. 35 degrees. Yeah, Sonny, that is pretty miserable. I'm going to be honest. Miljan, what is up? Good morning, people. He says, Stephen Thompson, good morning to you. Corey Buchan, that sounds terrible, brother. It's below zero up in Montana. Yeah, Donner Pass is awful. It is so I lived up in Reno for like almost 9 years, and we would ship stuff over the hill all the time going into Sacramento. And that pass is a nightmare. Donner Pass is, it's a joke. I would definitely not go on that at all costs. But yeah, it's I don't know about you guys. I'm noticing two things out there in the market right now. Capacity is still tight from the holidays. And rates are still up from the holidays. I'm definitely seeing that out there in all the freight that we're moving, and even the freight that we're bidding on. And I could tell that other people are rejecting tenders right now because the spot market is going wild right now for some of my shippers, and which is always a welcome sign, right? Because that's where I like to come in and swoop up. And I have new relationships with a lot of customers because I've really only been working with a handful of them for a year or less, because that's when we really started and kind of got back up and running. So these are those times, you guys, is the market continues. And again, maybe you guys are experiencing something different, but on the lanes that I'm moving, capacity is still tight and rates are still elevated out there. And I pay attention to that. And that's another thing too, from a prospecting perspective. Stay in front of your prospects right now. Okay, because I'm just noticing an influx of spot market opportunities coming across that normally aren't. And these are for some like big lanes too. Like these aren't offshoot or secondary lanes. These are power lanes that's out there. So pay attention to that, because this is where you can get in the door, right? Never, ever, ever, ever give up on following up with your prospects and your current customers, because you just never know. And this is going to be that one opportunity that you can get in the door with somebody or kind of break free and really separate yourself from your competition. Maybe you've only been moving a couple of loads for them. Stay present right now. Get in front of all your prospects, all of your shippers, and just be diligent about this, because these opportunities are going to go somewhere. And are they going to go to you, or are they going to go to your competition? So Jeff Dickinson says, weather, the acceptable exception of all exceptions regarding a degradation in service. Oh, Jeff, that's a great breakdown. That is a great breakdown. Yeah, weather is definitely playing a part of it. But a lot of the lanes that I move, Jamie, are like down south here in the Southwest, and weather is not a factor at all. Some of the lanes that I move pretty consistently, I'm still getting quoted 50% above what we normally move them for. But, it is what it is at the end of the day. Everything will eventually settle back down, and we'll get back to slanging freight at a high level. All right, you guys, we do have some articles that we're going to break down. Sorry about that. I just made some fresh coffee and it always burns the shit out of my mouth. I'm soft like that. All right. Articles we're going to break down. Links to them I'm going to put up on the Freight Coach YouTube channel, as well as the Coffee with the Freight Coach audio only replay, which is available on iTunes and Spotify almost immediately after the show. First article we are going to break down today is from my friends over at the JOC. Bill Cassidy wrote this article, and it's about still swollen U.S. truckload capacity tamping down rate hikes. Goes on to say the big picture. The U.S. truckload sector, enters 2024 oversupplied, with capacity still abundant despite months of attrition among smaller trucking companies and soft freight demand. I do just want to interject this. I love the fact that people are getting scrappy and staying in business and figuring it out no matter what. So it's just a statement in the article. I just want to interject that I love seeing people making it. And then that's also keeping a lid on truckload rates, both spot and contract, even though carriers are pushing back against rate cuts as operating costs continue to rise. Some carriers are warning of a rate reckoning ahead for shippers if volumes suddenly spike or capacity exit the market faster than expected, but most acknowledged this is unlikely. I personally think that there is going to be more of a rate because, like, here's the thing: when they talk about a rate reckoning, it happens every single market shift, right? Like there's going to be people out there that are going to hold your feet to the fire. Like if you think that you can get away with pushing down rates on carriers, and then when the market flips, they're just going to be your buddy after you've just railroaded them for the last 18 months. A rate reckoning happens at all times. Is it going to be a cataclysmic one? I don't know. You just never know when that happens. But we could all be experiencing that right now with rates staying elevated post holiday. You just never know. The rate reckoning could already be in place, and people might just hold out from there, right? It goes on to say the long-awaited rebound in truckload demand and rates didn't arrive last year, leaving carriers for a turning point was expected in the spring, the summer, and then the fall, and now expected at some point in 2024. Consumer spending remains strong despite inflation in 2023, but weaker manufacturing output and high inventories depressed demand. Spot rates that began tumbling in 2022 kept falling in the early part of the year, hitting the bottom in May, and then rising and falling incrementally over the following months. The summer spot rates that were out there, and then according to DAT, forcing some small trucking companies to exit the market. Even so, there are still more than 100,000 additional trucking companies in business today than there were pre-pandemic 2019. The expected exodus from them has been slower, thanks largely to the size of the truckload gold rush in 2021 that was going on out there. And then looking ahead, that truckload pricing rose 4.4% in October. And I'm just going to kind of skip over this. And then a long and slow and moderate increase in truckload rates is more likely than a hockey stick style rebound seen in 2020. Weird. It's almost like they heard that on this show, because that's what I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a slow and moderate increase that's coming on out here. And I just don't see anything outside of a major world event that is going to really throw a wrench in things. I truly think it's going to be a gradual increase out there. That's why I think that the majority of you who are pricing freight can expect to continue to price freight the same. And I know I led in the show saying what I did about rates staying elevated. That's eventually going to dissipate. It happens all the time, right? There's a holiday hangover for the first couple of weeks, and then it'll generally dip back down in Q1. And let me see here. The next inflection it says a slow and steady reduction in capacity as higher operating costs eat into the small carrier market is the likely lever that will cause pricing PowerPoints to switch back into the carrier favors. But with the market still replete with trucks, shippers can expect to keep pricing power in their hands for most of 2024. For the most part, all the rates are done, right? Like all the RFPs were published, everything's done. The real majority of the opportunities that you're going to get are going to be with the small to mid-sized market. You might get in on a backup perspective, or hey, we'll give you access to our spot market freight, but a lot of that is going to come in the event that the market starts to shift and tender rejections start to rise. And that's another key indicator to really start looking into. And now I'm not saying, because I don't go after large enterprise shippers, right? Because I truly, in my heart of heart, feel that a lot of them work with select providers due to the capital that is required to operate a large account like that. If you got millions and millions of dollars in credit that you can extend to all of these companies, then go for it, right? But I think at the end of the day, I'm going to continue down my path in that small to mid-sized market, because that's the greatest opportunity that I've experienced throughout the entirety of my career to really get in and make a meaningful difference out there. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the large enterprise accounts. I love the consistency that comes along with it. I just never was able to really get in and go visit them in person and stuff. But the small to mid-sized market, love it when you can come out there and stuff. So I don't know, just a personal preference. But I think that realistically, you guys, when you see articles like this, and again, this is from the JOC. I love the JOC, and it says the still swollen U.S. truckload capacity tamping down rate hikes. I think that people are going to continue to hold out as long as possible, right? Like I've been advocating for that since the first initial bloodbath and mass exodus talk was all encouraged by individuals out there hoping and praying that people went out of business and sold their shit. People need to continue to figure it out no matter what, right? If you're like, especially right now, and I know I was saying this for the back half of 2023, but especially right now, like you are so much closer to it recovering than not. Get scrappy, do what you got to do to keep your stuff and keep your lights on. And it's gonna happen. All right. It's going to happen. You're so much closer to the recovery than not at this point, and just keep fighting it out no matter what. Beat all odds. All right. Just that, because like at the end of the day, when you're out there making it in business, the statistics are what they are. It's very challenging to make and build a profitable business. And if you're making it right now, fuck them. Continue to make it. You're closer. You're closer. I'm cheering for you no matter what. All right. Next article. Tracy St. Clair, good morning to you over on YouTube as well. This one is from FreightWaves, and this is talking that the Supreme Court rejects review in broker liability case, leaving the issue unresolved. This is something, if you want to look into some of these cases, Miller versus C.H. Robinson, Google that and find out more about that one. It was viewed by the truckload legal industry as a threat to 3PLs. Remains a precedent that can be cited. I had Matt Leffler on a while ago, and we were talking about this one, but the Supreme Court, again, rejected a review by broker liability. However, unlike the case in Miller versus Robinson, this rejection is considered a victory for the brokerage industry. In a long list of denials posted Monday, the court without comment said it would not review the appeal brought by Ying Yi, the widow of a man killed in 2017 in an accident in Texas. Yi's action against Global Sunrise was brought in Illinois, where the carrier was based. Yi won her lawsuit against Global Sunrise, being awarded $10 million in summary, and the judgment handed down. Yi also attempted to bring freight broker Global Trans into the lawsuit, as it was Global Trans that hired Global Sunrise. But both the Federal District Court of Appeals in the Seventh Circuit rejected the claim, primarily citing that the Federal Aviation Administration Authorization Act holds that the state may not take action that could impact the transportation price, route, or service. Yi then appealed to the Supreme Court, which rejected her attempt Monday. There has been some rooting among the legal bar for the Supreme Court to take up this case, so to settle the question over broker liability that remains unsolved given the Miller decision in the Ninth Circuit Court. Not surprisingly, Global Trans, with victory in hand, was not one of them. Presumably, the court either determined that the circuit split was still too shallow, or that the issue did not rise to the level of an issue of the great public importance. But then it goes on to say, but in the Miller versus Robinson case, coming out of a 2016 accident that left Alan Miller a quadriplegic, the Ninth Circuit ultimately held C.H. Robinson was not protected by F4A, for-hire trucking company involved in the crash. The 3PL giant took it to the Supreme Court, but like in the Yi case, it was denied in 2022, and they later settled the case. And then it goes on to say that the issue is tangled up with the facts that the safety exemption is tied to motor vehicles. Whether a brokerage can be considered a motor vehicle was a key question in the Ying Yi case. And then the court ultimately concluded Global Trans wasn't a motor vehicle, so was protected by the rest of the F4A. But in the case of Miller versus Robinson, and I'm reading this, you guys, because again, brokers, you can and will get pulled into some of this stuff. Allegedly, I'm not accusing anybody of anything. But in the Miller versus Robinson case, according to a spokeswoman for C.H. Robinson, the Ninth Circuit found that the affirmative defense was not available to the broker because the safety exception did not allow for preemption of state action. It goes on to say the panel concluded the negligence claims against brokers to the extent that they arise out of motor vehicle accidents. Therefore, safety exemption applied to the plaintiff's claims. It is, I truly, truly feel this is one of you. If you're a broker, you need to follow up on this. whether it's a victory or not for the broker community. I've seen this happen before. And in the event of like, I've seen when past court cases of brokers getting pulled in, and you know what, you might be able to appeal up, but like you're going to get drug into litigation with some of this stuff, right? Especially if your name is associated with the shipment. In the event that something happens, something fatal happens, and unfortunately somebody dies or gets severely injured, if it's a brokered load on that truck, you're going to get pulled into the lawsuit no matter what, right? And I think that you need to pay attention to these court cases. You really do. And you need to talk to your attorney in these events that you're seeing this, and start looking into your contracts and everything that you have in place. And then most importantly, what are you or are you not saying on the phone when you're talking to some of these carriers, right? Because back in the day, and again, this isn't legal advice or anything under the sun, there was a fatality at another large broker when I first started in the industry. And that was the key component for why brokers could not, at least the brokerage I was working at the time, you cannot give out any information outside of the address and phone number of the shipper or the receiver, because in that case, they had found that the broker gave out directions and the driver followed those directions, and there was a fatality. Don't quote me on the specifics of it, but it was along those lines that the broker gave the driver directions. The driver followed those directions, went down a wrong way street and hit and killed somebody. And that was why we were told back in the day, like, you can only give the name of the facility, the address of the facility, and the phone number to the facility, and that is it. If anybody asks for any additional information, you need to have them reach out at that time. Because we couldn't be pulled into giving them information on how to operate their business. So, again, you guys pay attention to this stuff. This was a really good article. There's a lot of really good information in there, and specifically research these cases that they're talking about here. And then tie those into your operations, because I truly, truly feel that there's stuff that you can do to minimize your liability in some of these instances. And we really need to do this. So I like it. Yeah. Is it technically a victory for the freight broker community? It is, but somebody died in this instance. And there's ways that we can really go and to improve these situations as a whole. So check it out and read it. Freightwaves.com. Supreme Court rejects review in broker liability case. All right. Next article we're going to break down. Also some from FreightWaves, and also about C.H. Robinson. It's been a long and difficult trip, it says. And it goes on January 3rd of 2023. The transportation world awoke that the Bob Beisterfeld, the former president and CEO of them, had resigned. The company's stock, which had already dropped more than 15% from around $120 a share in August, registered little immediate reaction. Analysts, however, were less forgiving, raising concerns about the leadership vacuum at the company's general direction. The ensuing 12 months proved those analysts right. In a rough trucking market with no clarity on a recovery plan, Robinson's shares followed the path of least resistance, which was down. Shares descended into the high 70s in the fall before drifting up into the mid 80s. And that's the level that it trades at today. And it took 6 months for the board and an executive search committee to pick the CEO's successor. When it came back, the new leader, an outsider with no C-suite experience and a relatively modest transportation background, was not whom many had expected. I am just going to say this right now. I offered to go in and be the CEO of C.H. Robinson. I offered just for equity. I would have done it for free, just for some equity in the company. So just so we're clear, I did offer to go in. But back to the article. Sorry, I had to say that. It goes on to say that the company's costs have risen, and then some misaligned with volumes. Margin pressure continues almost unabated. Analysts are hard pressed to identify trends that were out there. On the anniversary of the Beisterfeld's departure, Ken Hoxter of the Bank of America published a note setting a 12-month price target of $80 a share, more than a $7 a share below where it was trading at. The question is whether C.H. Robinson's problems are due to the cyclicality of the current trucking market, or if the company faces secular problems separate from industry cycles, namely if it has lost relevance. There are approximately 18,000 brokers in the US, and C.H. Robinson's volumes could likely be absorbed without much of a hiccup should the company slide into a long-term abyss. I want to point out, like, I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm not saying that their volume couldn't be absorbed, but Robinson does way more than domestic US truckload freight brokerage. All right. They do a ton of managed transportation out there. So it's not nearly as simple as what they're trying to see or what they're saying this. I wholeheartedly disagree with that statement. Robinson is a massive company that does way more than domestic freight brokerage. Anyways, all of this is, talking about their long-term shares, yada, yada, yada. And then it goes on to say, Bozeman. Oh, hold on. Dave Bozeman. I'm sorry. Dave Bozeman is the new CEO of there. I forgot to mention his name earlier when it was mentioned. It did not qualify. Okay, let me see here. Bozeman's hiring came despite concerns that the 5 years serving as vice president of Amazon Transportation did not qualify him to run a $15 billion global enterprise, especially with Jim Barber on C.H. Robinson's board. Barber, who expressed interest in being the CEO, had served as COO of USPS. Bozeman began to remake the C-suite, starting with a new CFO to replace Mike Zeichmeister, who will retire by the end of May if a successor hasn't been named by then. He is also pushing to improve productivity at their surface transportation. In a statement to FreightWaves, Robinson said that it could have done a better job managing costs during the pandemic-driven upcycle when it brought on a lot of people and boosted its IT spending, only to be saddled with excess spending out there. I think that, what can you learn from this stuff, right? And you see this a lot. Like, nobody's got a perfect playbook to this. I don't know. None of us know the inner workings of what goes on at C.H. Robinson. All right. But they're always going to be in the crosshairs of everybody because they are number one. They're in my crosshairs, right? I always use them as an example all the time. I'm going to make them look like a startup because I'm going to build the largest transportation company in North American history, $50 billion a year company. That is what I'm going to build. But I think that they get a lot of hate no matter what because they are the largest, right? And again, I've never worked at Robinson. I know a lot of people who did work at Robinson. I don't know the inner workings of anything, but it's always going to be easy to sit there and cut them down for being number one. From my let me see here. I'm going to go on to say a source familiar with Robinson said the proliferation of asset-based brokerage divisions was part of the problem, but far from it. Pure play brokers such as TQL, Arrive, and Echo have been around for 10 or more years and have managed to compete with Robinson and grow their truckload volumes. The rivals push into C.H. Robinson's core business begs the hardest question of all. If you're not a truckload broker, then what are you doing? Part of the blame, the sources said, lies with board of governance. 4 of the company's 12 board members have served for 10 or more years and must take some degree of responsibility for the company's underperformance. 2 board members were added in 2022. That's something. And who knows, in a couple of years, it might go back and they're going to say that, Dave Bozeman was the best hire for the company because he didn't have traditional freight brokerage experience. He didn't have a ton of that, and he could come in with a fresh set of perspectives, right? And that's the problem that I think that some organizations have is this is the way we've always done it syndrome. And I truly feel like that is what causes a lot of businesses to falter. And, you never know. It's one of those situations. It's always easy to sit here, and I'll end it like this because, again, I'm not inside of that. I don't know anything about Robinson other than, at the end of the day, they're the largest freight brokerage in North America. I truly feel like it's always easy to sit there and point about what they're doing wrong and then offer no insight onto what could change to make them more profitable. And that's like, again, the article itself is a good article, a lot of good information, but again, it's always like those anonymous sources that it was lacking of what they could do differently to rebound their stock price. Because mainly, again, it's easier to be Monday morning quarterback a situation and say what you think you might do if you were potentially in that situation. And the best part about working in a free capitalistic society, any one of you guys can start your own thing and fucking take them on and take them down and do it differently if you want. But a lot of Monday morning quarterbacks out there, ladies and gentlemen. That article, freightwaves.com, C.H. Robinson, has been a long and difficult trip. That will be it for today, though, you guys. As always, if you guys got value in what you heard, share the show out there to your network, you guys, because that's how we grow and that's how we help more people is through that. And then also tomorrow is Q&A day. If you have any sales or operations related questions for the transportation industry, DM them over to me or drop them in the chat tomorrow. I'll answer them live on the show. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.